Well, it's been a long time since I've talked about our boy Donald Trump here on the channel. And the main reason is because I think Trump is, for the most part, temporarily politically irrelevant. He's obviously going to run again in 2024. I don't think anybody doubts that. He's still doing his fucking campaign runs, and people say it's just because he's a narcissist, and he is, and he loves attention, but I think he does plan to run again, and I think his chances of winning in 2024 are quite good compared to 2020. If he isn't in jail, Trump is not going to go to jail. If you guys think that any serious legal repercussions are ever going to stick to Trump, then you're delusional. That is not how politics works. It just isn't how it goes. It's just he's going to get away with it. He's got the money. He's got the political power. He was the president. And not to mention, like, honestly, assuming Trump never runs again and Trump is never politically relevant again, it might be best for the Democrats to leave Trump alone, because it literally just reflects badly on the Democrats. That's been one of the sad, like, reality pills I've had to take in all of this, is that, like, the Democrats and the left continuing to, like, try to pursue the instigators of the January 6th riots really makes the Democrats look bad and, like, salty and petty. And it sounds stupid and it sounds wrong, but that's just the way that Americans think at this point. Like, the January 6th riot, like, the fact that that's just a thing that we've just sort of accepted happened at this point goes to show how tumultuous and insane politics got in those 4 years of Trump. I mean, think about it. A Confederate flag flew in the U.S. Capitol for the first time in American history on that day. That's a very significant historical event. Not even the Confederate traitor army of the South could get a Confederate flag inside of the Capitol, and they did it. And now we're just, like, talking about it like it's a thing that happened. Almost like, I know it's just out, what are you going to do about it? But it goes to show how normalized things like this have gotten. The party, the group responsible for a literal insurrection attempt on the Capitol, getting away scot-free. Absolutely wild. Regardless, though, Donald Trump is back in the limelight right now because he's talking about something on the news and getting attention for it, and he's going a little bit mask off, so to say. Now, if you remember back in 2016, there wasn't as much hate against trans people as there is now. I should clarify, there wasn't as much hate against binary trans people as there is now. I know that sounds surprising, but it's true. Like, back then, even in the anti-SJW community, a fair amount of those content creators would say, I'm fine with binary trans people as long as you have dysphoria and you pass, but non-binary people are the ones who are bad. But now it's gotten to the point where saying that all trans people are pedophiles and groomers is just the norm. And laws are, and that is informing laws and bills and policies that are being passed here in America. I'd argue that things have gotten more hostile to trans people now than they were 4 years ago. If anyone disagrees, I want to hear it. With that said, though, seems you all agree, Donald Trump, of course, has decided to jump onto the bandwagon of transphobia that has kind of been sweeping the GOP and the broader America at large right now. It's a bit of a shorter clip, so there's not really much to cover, but I'm sure there'll be enough to talk about here. This is the clip.
Pushing woke gender ideology. Woke gender ideology. Think of it. On young people.
It's been so long since I've heard him talk. It's been so long since I've heard him talk, it's almost, like, bizarre. Like, I've only heard people parroting him talk for, like, the last year. So it almost feels bizarre to hear him speak again.
Pushing woke gender ideology. Woke gender ideology. Think of it. On young people is nothing less than child abuse. No teacher should ever be allowed to teach transgender to our children without the parents' consent. And I don't think too many people are going to be giving that consent, Mark. Not too many.
Do you remember back in 2016 when there was a lot less hate against trans people and Donald Trump was doing the LGBT for Trump, oh, trans people love Trump, yada, yada, yada? Do you remember that? because back then the Republican Party, and particularly Trump and the alt-right, were trying to sort of rebrand themselves as a more hip, cool, young person's right wing. And a large part of that was seeming a little bit less overtly against gay people. Well, the mask is coming off. They're getting more comfortable being overt about what they believe. Caitlyn Jenner still supports Trump. Of course she does. She's like a millionaire. Trump doesn't want the transes to know how to read. Okay, so let's go ahead and break down the hint of an argument that exists in what Trump said here, because of course nothing Trump has ever said has been a coherent argument. So let's go ahead and tear down what there is here.
Pushing woke gender ideology. Woke gender ideology.
So this woke gender ideology he's referring to is literally just, honestly, not even that comprehensive, more of a watered down example of the current consensus of sex, gender, and biology in the academic space. Honestly, the amount of like comprehensive breakdown you're going to get of it in anything up to high school is going to be nothing compared to what you'll get in college, or if you actually end up studying in any of these fields specifically. But like, whatever woke gender ideology is being pushed this is literally no different than when you have a Republican president up on stage back in the 90s or the 80s saying no teacher should be teaching kids about evolution without their parents' permission. And they lost that battle. And do you know why they lost that battle? They lost it because, well, the evidence is there. The scientific community is agreed upon it. At a certain point, these institutions, as manipulated and corrupt by Republicans and conservatives as they are, they can't keep reality out forever. Eventually, reality catches up with them, and the system adapts. Eventually, one day, the existence of gay and trans people will be taught in schools as just a fact of life and a thing you have to accept. That is the reality that we are heading towards. Whether you like it or not, it is where we are heading. It just has to be fought for. Did you just Google trans acceptance from X day and see that it has actually gotten a lot better? It hasn't gotten worse. It's always been bad. In that case, that suggests even something even scarier. If trans acceptance has gotten even higher and the Republican Party and the Republicans in power are implementing laws that are successfully infringing on the rights of trans people, that's a demonstration of the fact they don't need majority support to implement their will on others. Not to mention what you're talking about is a nationwide scale, and if we're talking about red states, which is what matters here due to the current Republican strategy of trying to leave all of these issues up to states so that the red states can basically turn themselves into red fascist hellholes. So it doesn't really matter if, like, across the whole nation people are pretty positive on trans people, if basically every state in the Rust Belt is hard red and, you know, everyone there would lynch a trans person if it was legal to. You know, so that argument is kind of bullshit, remnants, when you consider the fact that red areas have probably gotten a lot more transphobic than they were previously, just because knowledge of trans people has gotten more prevalent. It's a natural thing. Even if it's a loud minority, when a marginalized group fights for their rights, those that are trying to oppress them will be as loud as fucking possible, and they will kick and scream and flail like an injured wild animal. And like an injured wild animal on the edge of death, they are still dangerous, even if they're on the edge of death. Keep that in mind, chat.
Think of it. On young people is nothing less than child abuse. No teacher should ever be allowed to teach transgender to our children.
So, one thing that I've noticed that's very common in conservatives accusing LGBT people of being child abusers or groomers for teaching kids that gay people exist. Yeah, he says teach transgender. The fact that he knows so little about these issues that he can't even he can't even properly word the thing he's talking about and refer to the correct terms for it. It goes to show just how little knowledge he has on these subjects. He might just be stupid. He is stupid. Conservatives are stupid. That doesn't change the fact that they're powerful and they are hurting people. Yeah, the reason why the right is so quick to accuse these people of grooming is because necessarily it's really the only form of child abuse that a parent can't do to their kid. Like, just necessarily, like, if you have a kid and you're raising them and you're going to sexually abuse them, you can't, you don't groom them. They're your kid, right? Someone else has to groom a kid. Conservatives basically ignore any form of child abuse and deny its existence at every turn. And the one form of child abuse they're willing to acknowledge is grooming, because it's the one kind of child abuse that can't be done, or not the one kind, but a kind of child abuse that can't be done by a parent onto a kid, onto their own kid. And it's something that intuitively a lot of straight people that are already, maybe have some homophobic biases might associate with the LGBT community. We've never been over this parent can groom a kid. It's about normalizing the abuse to the child. We've been over this. A parent can groom a kid. It's about normalizing the abuse to the child. That is not what grooming is. That is not what grooming is. Grooming is when you find a child and you put them into a situation where they become financially, emotionally, and physically dependent on you, as to open them up to being vulnerable to sexual abuse, okay? If you have a child that you are raising, they are already vulnerable to sexual abuse. You cannot groom them. That is why conservatives use that as an accusation, because necessarily a form of child abuse that parents cannot do to their kids, because their kids are already financially, emotionally, and physically dependent on their parents. No grooming necessary. The parents literally groomed their kids already, whether they molest them or not. So it's already there. Good God, think for a moment, chat. Come on. They're pre-groomed.
Without the parents' consent, and I don't think too many people are going to be giving that consent, Mark.
And as I said, it always comes back around to the parents. No teaching the existence of LGBT people to kids without the parents' consent. As I said, what I just said supports what we just heard. It's all about parents can do no wrong when controlling their kids, because in the conservative mindset, a household is like a mini nation. And particularly the father of a household is the president of that mini nation. So a family unit in which the children of the household are the lowest of the low, just barely above the pets, sort of at a very young age ingrains in young people the hierarchical structure that conservatives so badly want to preserve in our society, ingrains them in us at a young age. So child abuse, when parents beat their kids or just do anything like that to their kids, that enforces a very similar dynamic to what the world and what our economic system will impose on us as adults, and it'll normalize it to them. And so the right encourages it, defends it. They say child abuse doesn't exist unless it's some gay person grooming your kid. Ideally, they can accuse teachers of being the groomers because they've always hated teachers. The Republicans have been trying to cut teachers' pay and eliminate the ability for our education system to function for a very long time.
Not too many. Pushing woke.
Well, there you have it. Please go over this, pbs.org. New poll shows Americans overwhelmingly oppose anti-transgender laws. I'm sure that is true, and I'm glad that it is true. However, if you look in the red states right now, that doesn't change the fact that these anti-trans laws are getting passed, and they're continuing to elect GOP politicians that agree with those laws. I don't know where we're having an issue here. Particularly when I talk about people being more hostile to trans people, I think the internet is where it's happened the most. I think the internet is where broadly things have gotten more hostile to trans people. Before, it felt like transphobia was more of an irreverent joke that was sort of like said in passing. Now it's a unilateral effort to harass and destroy as many trans people as possible on the internet. You know what I'm saying? Have you guys noticed that? We saw a proto version of this with people like Milo Stewart and Riley J. Dennis getting harassed back in the Gamergate era. We saw a proto version of it, but now you've got people like Matt Walsh literally mobilizing in the tens of thousands. If you go to the comments section on my Matt Walsh video, it is overwhelmingly hate comments and dislikes. They've mobilized in mass against anyone who's dares speak out against them. and they'll use the fact that your videos have been mass disliked as an argument as to why you're wrong. That's like now all the comments I got on the videos now, on that video now that's been hate bombed, are the fact that everybody in the comments agrees with Matt Walsh goes to show how wrong you are. It's like, bro, Matt Walsh has like 8 million subscribers and rated my channel. What? How in these people's minds, you have to remember, these people are mentally deficient. They have been, not through birth, not through any genetic thing, but they have been over a long period of time brainwashed and conditioned to not think critically. The idea that a lot of people agree with them on something means they're right is 100% logical, valid thinking in their eyes now. That is how they operate. I met a guy once who voted for Trump because Elon Musk did. And his logic was that Elon Musk is one of the smartest people on earth, so he must know who the best candidate would be. There is a significant amount of people who think like this and believe that is a sound, logical, consistent thought process. And it's scary, but it's the world we live in, and we have to continue to operate under the knowledge that that is the world we live in. It sucks, but it's true. What can I say? 420 viewers, by the way. Dope. I can't not point out when we have 420 viewers. Come on, guys. It's the meme. It's the fucking meme. 420 Blaze. Hold on. Elon Musk is literally trying to reinvent the train without actually reinventing the train. Isn't the Hyperloop, like, super fucking dumb? Like, isn't it a very impractical, really dumb idea that just isn't it stupid? Regardless. With that said, Trump is stupid. He might win in 2022 or 2024. So for God's sakes, stop brunching and start becoming politically interested. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more from me here on YouTube, please consider hitting the subscribe button and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications on my channel. Otherwise, YouTube simply will not tell you when I go live or upload a new video. I promise you, they just won't. So make sure you do that. If you want to see more from me on the internet, though, please consider following all my social medias. They're all linked down below in the description, including my Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, my fan Discord, and my Instagram. With all that said, you can also support me financially if you've got the money for it. You don't need it for anything else, and you want to support me. You know, we are trying to raise money right now to hopefully replace my very shitty buzzing audio setup. Any support you guys can lend is always appreciated. $5 a month. You can donate, subscribe, or gift a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me on YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, or Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and have a good one.